Hello, I'm doing my special occasion speech on sexual purity. A couple moved into a new neighborhood. The next morning, while they were eating breakfast, a young woman saw her neighbor hanging the wash outside. That laundry is not very clean, she said. She doesn't know how to wash correctly. Perhaps she needs better laundry soap. Her husband looked on, but remained silent. Every time her neighbor would hang her wash to dry, the young woman would make the same comments. About 1 month later, the woman was surprised to see nice clean wash on the line and said to her husband, "Look, she has learned how to wash correctly. I wonder who has taught her this." The husband said, "I got up early this morning and cleaned our windows." This is the way it really works for everybody. The purity for which we see others and the way that we see others really depends on the purity of the windows that we look through, which would be our eyes. As Christians, we are called in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18, to flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. When you take a look at the world around you, do you ever ask yourself what is wrong with people, events, or aspects of your own life? I know that I've asked myself this thousands of times, and the answer that I keep coming back to is we live in a fallen world. According to the book of Genesis, this came about through the fall in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve took from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God really didn't mean it for it to be this way, yet it still happened. When you think about sexual purity, it is sometimes hard to understand how we got where we are today. It seems that a person is bombarded by sexually explicit material no matter where they are. For instance, take a look at the television shows and movies that people watch. It's getting harder to find a show or movie that doesn't have some reference to sex in it. When you go to your local grocery store, look at the magazines that are by the checkout counter. You often see magazines about celebrities who are constantly hooking up with other celebrities, and also women who are very scantily clad on the covers of women's magazines. You'll also see things when driving down the road. I mean, for me, in the small town that I live in, during the summer it is very hard not to see women that are dressed and barely dressed. So, what are we to do? First and foremost, we need to train our hearts, minds, and bodies to resist temptation and to even look at such things. Christians are called to put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. And we find this in Colossians 3, verse 5. In conclusion, I would like to leave you guys with a little story. Two theological students were walking along a street in the Whitechapel district of London, a section where old and used clothes are sold. One student said to the other, "What a fitting illustration all this makes," as he pointed to a suit of clothes hanging on a rack by the window. A sign read on it, "Slightly soiled, greatly reduced in price." "That's it, exactly," he said. We get soiled by gazing at a vulgar picture, reading a crude book, or allowing ourselves a little indulgence in dishonest or lustful thoughts. And so the time comes for our character to be appraised, and we are greatly reduced in value. Our purity, our strength is gone. We are just part and parcel in general, shop-worn stock of the world. This story really resonates with how we are, and I would just like to thank everybody for taking some time to listen to this.